It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the happy entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we're on a mission. And our mission really is to inspire, our mission is to empower, and our mission is to provide you, the entrepreneur, that's right, the hardworking entrepreneur, the backbone to these United States of America, with the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this particular episode, we got the one and only Angel Tuccy, who's in the building. How are you? How you
Oh
doing?
my gosh, I am doing great, Shay. I am so excited to be here on your show with you today. How are you doing? Like, I haven't seen you in ages, but you look amazing.
But you just don't age down there by in Miami. I know you're doing good in Colorado, but Florida's definitely been good to you. I'll say that. Here's the
Yeah,
question I have, because we have
we
never
moved here.
entrepreneurs, and when they saw the whole get discovered media, they was like, okay, Shay, what's going on with this again? I could feel it. So do me a favor, they'll be reading your bio in a moment because it's right there below. They can see that. Take a moment. We used to talk about being discovered by the media. Talk about why entrepreneurs struggle so hard to be discovered by the media when everyone becomes an entrepreneur to get discovered by the media. It's kind of oxymoron. So what's the biggest challenges that's facing entrepreneurs today getting discovered by the media?
It's really funny you asked me that, Shay, because when I talk to people about what do you want, like, do you want to be, what's your media goals? And they're like, I want to be on, these major media outlets, right? Good Morning America, the Today Show. I want to be featured. Well, you don't get to be featured on those shows to get famous. They have you on their shows, right? Because you're famous. And so when we leverage and we talk about getting discovered using media, is I think that entrepreneurs are too afraid to start local and start with podcast interviews, start with getting in their local newspapers, getting on their local news stations. Because if you want to create major media exposure, if you want to get major media coverage, they get their news and their features from their regional affiliates who get their news from their local stations. Start local. Don't be afraid to start right where you're at and become the big fish in that little pond, because every single day your local media and your local podcasters, they're looking for guests and they're looking for stories. They're looking for you right now.
I like that. Someone has the goal of finding you right now. That's why Angel exists on the other side. Okay, we have two topics that are really interesting. We got something to talk about. You have PR, which we have no idea. So I want your definition on what is PR these days. And then you have media, right? And so for those folks, we have a number of folks, by the way, Angel, they're dualpreneurs. Like, some folks work a full-time job, they're a full-time entrepreneur, take care of their family, do what they got to do in the community. And they're like, Shay, can she break down media versus public relations? And if so I can understand the difference between those two from her view of the world.
Right? From the insider. Well, I have 10 years experience in broadcasting. I was a radio talk show host broadcasting out of Denver, Colorado. And so my background has been in media for now almost 15 years. And so when I think about media, I really think about other people's platforms, right? That could be, when I started, it was radio, it was television, it was newspapers, magazines. But now, since really pretty much this shift, right, post pandemic, we've added things like podcasts, virtual summits, live stages. And so it's really, I mean, we're all walking around as media rock stars, right? Creating media. We all have these little smart devices and we're all broadcasters, right? We have a blog, we're all journalists. Really, anybody now is creating media. We're all content creators. But I think what I talk about with media is really traditional media, getting booked in the media, in news, in the news, on radio shows, television shows. But I have added podcasts to that because it is such an up and rising platform. And so when I say media, I really mean somebody who has a stage and a platform and an audience that is paying attention to them. When we talk about PR, that's just industry lingo, right? For public relations, somebody who is out telling your story on your behalf, making that introduction. They're really your media matchmaker. of getting your story out into the news, into other, in front of other media platforms. And so PR is really somebody who's being media matchmaker for you. And sometimes we also use it for the term press release, right? We're putting out press and getting your story into the news via a press release. Does that help break it down?
Definitely, 100%. And that leads to something that I want you to share in a moment. We'll get to the book you wrote, Get Discovered. But there's a group of folks out there, they're like, okay, do I have to be the face for my company? Okay, because, you talked about the media, talked about getting in front of it. And so if someone's an entrepreneur today and they're watching everybody in the company, do they have to go out there and speak themselves, or can someone kind of represent them? I just want to get your view.
I mean, really any of us, right? Most companies have a spokesperson who is the spokesperson for their company. It doesn't have to be you. If you are the personal brand for your company, then it probably is. But it needs to be somebody. There needs to be a spokesperson for your company that you can, put in front of a camera, who understands your mission, your vision, speaks elegantly about your company, that you trust out in the marketplace and in the community to share your vision. But yes, you need a spokesperson for your company. If you are a personal brand, then it should be you.
Yeah. One of the things I admire is that you can do a whole lot of pieces. And, as they're listening, thinking, okay, do I have to have everything in place first? I mean, because I don't like my website, I'm going to be getting some new photos. I mean, there's all this list of things entrepreneurs are always going to be doing, someday. Does everything have to be in order and perfect before they can even take that first step?
Oh my gosh, what a great question that is. And you're right. I think we do get hung up on, I have to have it all figured out. But think about this. Think about Hollywood. When they bring out a blockbuster film, do they wait until that film is in the theater before they tell you about it? No, right? They are long before they're on the cutting room floor, sometimes before they even go into production. They are creating engagement and interest. The same thing with small businesses and any organization. You don't have to have it all buttoned up. If you've got a microphone in one hand, right, and you're being interviewed, all you need is a place is to collect email addresses or to collect leads, to build your following. So that way you've got first party data. You can use the media exposure to build your audience. And truly, I want you to do that first, right? Because exposure comes first and then revenue. If we can go out and create exposure before you even have something to sell, before that website's finished, before the headshots are done, right? In fact, it's time for me to get new headshots. I just did a magazine interview and she's like, Angel, can you send me some photos? I'm like, oh, these have been so used and so overdone, like for so long. But done is better than nothing. Done is better than perfect. Please don't feel like you have to have it all buttoned up and figured out. In fact, that's almost like the kiss of death, right? For productivity and success. Go out, share your message, build your list, build your following. And in the background, you can be building up the systems and the funnels and the products and the programs, but go and create demand. And then you'll have something to sell to them. And you'll have people to
Wow.
sell it to.
I love it. I love it. You said first, before revenue comes what? Exposure?
Always. People think it comes last. They're like, after I go build it, after I go create it, then I'll go and tell people about it. No. Go and create the demand first. Create the following. So when you open up your doors, you got a line around the block. You got a list of people that are already chomping at the bit to get what you want. Like even right now, we just did an email campaign to a very untapped email list. In fact, Shay, I think you got an email and I started getting phone calls from people. And I asked my business partner, Jamie, I said, who did this email go to? Because I am hearing from people I haven't heard from in ages. And he says, Angel, you never email your list. So of course they're all excited to get an email from you, but you never email them. And now we're just started regenerating some love in there. But we've already had the following, right? We already had people. So when we sent out this email and invited them to come and play with us, the exposure had already happened. And so now it was a really easy yes to say, hey, let's re-engage again.
We heard you in the beginning. Thanks for sharing. We heard you in the beginning talking about a little bit about your journey. For those folks that aren't reading how famous you are below, for those folks that aren't Googling you, they probably have a couple of questions. Number one, what was your first break getting in? Was it something you said you got into a number of years ago? Did you just walk in the door and apply and they just needed someone? So tell us a little bit about the
No.
backstory on how you got in here and one or two of the lessons you discovered, being on the camera for those folks is like, okay, I can do this. I can turn my phone on. So a little bit about the backstory that led you to where you are now.
Yeah, so Shay, Get Discovered is not just the title of my book, it's my story. I truly got discovered. I had started by hosting a podcast. It was a weekly show talking about the customer experience. And my local radio station, somebody from my local radio station heard the podcast and invited me and my co host to come and start our own radio show, a terrestrial radio show in a real live radio studio airing, people could listen in their cars. And for us, this was back in 2008, 2009. That was the most amazing thing, to actually start a podcast and have it get discovered and get picked up. I did not have a background in broadcasting. I did not go to journalism school. I had never been in a radio studio until we were brought in by this company. And I ended up with a 10-year career in broadcasting with 2 back-to-back daily radio shows. I was the host of a positive business talk show for 2 hours, and then we did a commercial break and switched over to a different studio and hosted a second 2-hour Christian lifestyle show where I was talking to moms in minivans. And so when I left broadcasting 5 years ago, it was after a 10-year career. I was in the top 1% of my industry because there are less than a dozen women across the country who host 4 hours of talk radio every day. So it was an amazing career, but I got discovered because I because I hosted a podcast.
That's super fantastic. And what do you enjoy most about what you're doing now? Because you sound like you're so excited, you're happy, don't like seem even miss, the other 10 years that you're really enjoying and stepping into what you're doing now. So I guess the question is, what do you enjoy most about what you do today?
What do I enjoy most? It is kind of incredible that it has been 5 years since I've left broadcasting. And, I left and we started teaching entrepreneurs and organizations how to do their own PR. During the pandemic, we shifted into doing it for people, started this amazing podcast network during the last 2 years. And I mean, honestly, I am living this amazing high every day, Shay, because I have the best job in the world in that I get to share my clients' good news, right, with other people. So they launched a book, they've launched a course, they're starting a new program, right? They're having these amazing milestones. I get to be the catalyst, right? Their matchmaker, and go out and introduce them to others, right? Other podcasters, other journalists who are looking for great stories. And so whenever something good happens to them, the first phone call right after they tell their team is to me. Hey, Angel, right? This just happened. This just happened. Can we share this? Can we update my media sheet? Right? Would this make for a great podcast? I'm like, yes, absolutely. So yeah, you're the happy entrepreneur by title. I think I'm the happy entrepreneur by trade, by lifestyle.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So they're all sitting on the edge of the seats now. They're like, okay, I'm all in, Shay. I need something. While she's here, can she share 1, 2, or 3 ideas to the newbie that's just trying to get their podcast started? They've been thinking about it, talking about it, networking about it, bought books about it, watched videos about it, but they haven't got it started yet. So you say, okay, Shay, here's step 1, 2, and 3 for the new person getting started. What would you say to that individual?
Well, I'll tell you what, you are already inspired, right? You have an idea that you want to get out into the marketplace. So just go. Like, stop trying to figure it out. Most of us, we take way too much time in the data research and the figuring and the collecting and the tweaking until it's perfect. You can modify this thing until the cows come home, right? Nothing against cows coming home, but it's time for us to just go. So you're ugly, right? So what if it's ugly? So what if it's icky when it starts? Just start, because most of what we're going to learn is you learn in the doing and action and taking action. And that was a piece of advice that was given to me the first time before I published my first book was, Angel, just write it. You'll learn what you need to learn in the process of doing. So number 1, take action. Right? Just take your dream, take your idea, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be all figured out, but we've just got to start the engine so that we can go. Number two, align yourself with just a really great group of people that support your dream, that support your vision, that want to help you, that want to make introductions for you, willing to share and introduce you to other people. Make sure you're in a community that truly loves you and supports you. And that's what we like. I think that's always been. I had a great community in Denver. I have a great community online. And I've always just had a great support team around me. So make sure you've got just a great group of supporters around you. And then number three is share it, right? Don't just don't just host your own podcast, go and be a guest on other people's podcasts. I tell people if you do 2 interviews a week, that's putting you in front of a fresh audience every single week, right? 2 fresh audiences a week. That's 100 audiences out of a year. You'll have unlimited leads, unstoppable traffic. You'll be figuring out all the pieces along the way. You'll be attracting the right leads. You're in the right community. And honestly, you'll be unstoppable.
I love it. Open her brain up, Shay. Just peel it back for a moment and then ask her, whoa, okay, get on a couple of podcasts, a couple a week, got it. I can work with her company, which I'm going to talk to you about, in a little while, type of client she's looking for. But they might be wondering, can she give us a little advice on what we should look for? I mean, does the podcast have to be in my industry? How do I know it's the right podcast? Do they have to have, 50,000 downloads? Like, okay, here's the question. Let me frame it. Talk to the person. It's like, I'm in. I want to. Matter of fact, if I don't do mine, I'm gonna get on someone else's. What's 1, 2, or 3 things they should look for, be careful for, as they go to search to be on podcasts?
Well, Shay, like there's so many people starting in podcasting now. And I think I remember hearing somebody say that most of them, their whole audience wouldn't fill your garage, right? Like nobody's listening, nobody's downloading. But in the beginning, we don't care about that. I want you to go out and say yes to all the opportunities you can for just the first 30, 60, 90 days, right? Go out and get practice, get the exposure, learn kind of the art of that dialogue, of having that conversation through a podcast, what it's like to be on the other side. Just go out like two a week, right? For 1, 2, or 3 months, get the practice, get the exposure. You can always repurpose them, always reshare them, use the content, give it, many lives and turn it into blogs and social posts and marketing campaigns. Like it can do so many things for you. So in the beginning, I'm not worried about how many listeners, like, is it the exact right fit? Is it the exact right audience? Because we're still kind of figuring out our way, right? We're still practicing and leveraging those beginner shows to really get our messaging buttoned up and dialed in, making sure we've got a great call to action so that we're using it to build our list. We're not being too salesy. We've got great education. We're giving great value. Truly, I want you to give your best stuff, right? Just give your best stuff. Let the audience know that even if they don't buy from you, they're going to get value from you, tremendous value. And there's just a lot of law of reciprocity that comes into that. So go give your best stuff. Don't worry about the size of the podcast. Don't worry about the audience. You do you, right? Because one podcast, right, could impact hundreds of lives, thousands, hundreds of thousands. And truly, that podcast could end up taking off. And somebody days, weeks, months, even years from now could be listening to your podcast and come back and want to follow you. So like, I don't even worry about it. Like, Angel, who cares? Like, should I be more concerned? I'm like, not in the beginning. Once you get really busy, then you can get a little pickier and you'll learn how to discern like what it is you're looking for as far as topics, their onboarding process, kind of what their systems are. You'll learn what to look for just in the doing.
One thing I admire about your firm is your firm's ability to kind of bring an individual in and walk them from beginning to end. And I think that's really special. And one question I would like to ask right now, which is for folks that have to answer questions. I know you do media training as well. What's one idea, maybe 2 ideas you would share? They're like, well, okay, I can do that and I'm gonna get on there and I can answer the question, but do I need to be just talking about just my business? Is it okay to bring in personal stuff? Like, can you give them just a little framework? And in a minute, we're going to talk about how they can connect with you. For those folks that are going to be getting on podcasts.
right? We actually have 5 different things that we teach when it comes to answering questions or to being a great guest on a podcast. But a couple of them, right? One of them is just to have great quotes or tips or little sound bites. Maybe you do a 1, 2, 3, right? Where people are taking notes, or you have an alliteration or a little formula that you're taking them through. It just makes it easier for the listener to follow you and to stay on track with what you're talking about. Always have a story, right? Of course, we want to have stories in there. You don't have to have long stories for every question, but a couple that just give people just a little bit of insight into your backstory. Because I think when people listen to podcasts, they're listening more actively because they're usually doing something else at the same time, right? Walking their dog, working out, commuting. And so they're actively engaged. So if you can make it really easy for them by giving, 1, 2, 3 points, those alliterations, taking people through a system, it's easier for their brain to engage. And honestly, this is how you connect most deeply with your audience, is through podcasting, because they are doing something else. They are actively engaged. People love listening to podcasts. Like, the listenership for podcasting has just gone through the roof. But they also take action. And so they can take action on they're looking you up, they're researching you, they're going to follow you on LinkedIn, maybe Instagram, and they're going to follow through all the way to your call to action. And if you've given them a reason to pick up their pen to take notes, then when I give my call to action, you already have your pen in hand and you're ready to write it down. And so having them take notes isn't just for them to take notes, but it's so that they're ready to write down how to connect with you at the end of the call.
I love it. One of my favorite questions to ask is, of all the mentors you've had along this journey of life, what's one lesson or one principle that you can share from any of your mentors? I know you had so many that can help us, the viewers. And you, this is the time at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard. Did you wait for this question? You get to lean in now, because she's going to pay something forward, an idea that's been near and dear to her. She's going to pay it forward to you. And here's the good news. You may never meet her mentor, but you'll be able to use this one idea for the rest of your life. So what's one lesson you've learned?
Oh my gosh. Even as you're talking, I'm like, okay, Angel, filter through. I've interviewed over 5,000 people in my career, Shay. So I've had a lot of people pour into me, right? I've read just hundreds of books, a lot in personal development, a lot in entrepreneurial growth. And I've had a lot of people pour into me. I've hired some of the top coaches for different things. But I think I'm gonna land on Charlie. And Charlie was my producer when I came into broadcasting. I didn't have a career in broadcasting, right? I didn't have any background in it. I didn't have any experience. I was a true newbie. And yet here I had like a really prime spot, right, for broadcasting. And Charlie was my first producer, and he was with me for 8 years. But every single day, he had something that I needed to learn, like a teachable moment, a piece of advice or something I could have done better. And every single day, I knew that Charlie was helping me to get better. And all I had to do was listen and remain teachable. And so I would just say that, remain teachable, because every day we can get better. And that's my goal, is just to do today a little better than I did yesterday. And if we are constantly striving to get better, right, for ourselves, in our relationships, for our clients, then the world's just a really beautiful place, right? I just think it's a really beautiful place. So from Charlie, just remain teachable.
I love it. We have a segment here, Angel, called Today is My January 1st. Now, I know 11 p.m. Eastern Standard, you wait for that. So everyone who's family, who's here, whether you're watching us on YouTube right now at I Am Shay Brown, you can follow us, subscribe, or you're on one of the podcasts and you've downloaded, or maybe you're on one of the on-demand streaming platforms, Apple TV, or wherever you are, you're listening. You can go ahead and say those words you wait to say, which is today is my January 1st. Today is my January 1st. Happy New Year to you. For all the new folks, welcome. Welcome to the family. For the first time, you might be hearing it. So today is our January 1st, is our personal mantra here at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It represents to us a fresh start. Today is my January 1st represents a do-over. Today is my January 1st means that our past, no matter what it is, no longer equals the future. So my question for Angel, she's sitting over there, as you hear those words, today is my January 1st, as a repeat guest over here, by the way, what do you hear? And what was one of your January 1st moments?
Oh, this is so good, right? Because we do sometimes just need a do-over. And we get so excited. I used to always have a new planner. I was a Franklin planner girl. So every year, right? Fresh new calendar, so clean, right? It could be anything we wanted. I get to design it. So the fact that every day can be our January 1st and we can just like start today and say, I can put whatever I want going forward is so exciting. And it just gives me chills. So today is my January 1st. So would I say like a goal or what I'm starting all over? Give me an example, Shay, because I just lost it.
No, you're perfect. Your train of thought was what do you hear, and what's one of the ways that you start for January 1st? And it sounded like you was going down the direction that one of the ways you started January 1st is you get a chance to take a clean slate every single day and start off by writing the goals. Is that kind of what we heard?
Oh, absolutely, right? So always, right, and pretty much even every day, right? What is my goal for today, and what are the top 3 things I need to do to make that happen? And that would be my January 1, right? My husband and I would sit down and plan our goals. What are our top goals, and what are the action steps that we need to do to make it happen? Because it's really easy to drift, right? We just
Yeah.
kind of find ourselves like drifting along, and we're so far off course, or just even a little off course. But if we just stay focused every day, what is my goal for today? What are the top 3 action steps I need to take? Then yeah, we just get a little better every day.
I love it. That's amazing. So for folks that want to connect with you, two-part questions. We finish up. One is what type of clients is your firm working with these days? If you're taking on any new clients, which I hope you are. And number two, how can folks best connect? How can they stay in this conversation over and beyond the time that we have now?
Oh, well, fantastic questions. So a couple years ago, I started a brand new podcast community, and it's a Facebook group, and you can find it at the website. If you go to needaguest.com, it'll take you right into that Facebook group. And when you apply, give me your email address, give me your phone number. We'll send you some really great gifts and some really great stuff on helping you to just get yourself out there immediately. So go to needaguest.com if you want to be a guest on more shows, to get booked on more podcasts. It is an amazing podcast community. It's actually one of the fastest growing matchmaking guesting communities right now. We have grown, like we've almost tripled in size in the last 6 months, which is incredible. So needaguest.com. And the types of clients we're looking for are really those established entrepreneurs who just know they want more exposure. You know the value of getting in front of a fresh new audience every single week, and you want some help with that. Right? You want to offload that onto somebody else. You're like, I do it once in a while, but I don't really have the consistency. I want to make sure I'm getting booked every single week, and I want to make sure that I'm monetizing it and increasing the lifetime value of my customers. So we bring not only the acumen and the access to our incredible podcast network, but we also bring incredible business acumen and help you to develop your business using media interviews to grow your business every single week.
Perfect. And so they would go to needaguest.com. Is that correct?
It would, yeah, needaguest.com. It'll put you right into our Facebook group. You can enroll. Give me your address, your email address, give me your phone number, and we'll send you some good stuff for that.
Well, thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. Not for the first time, not for the second time, and certainly not for the last time, by the way. But thank you for being here on the Happy Entrepreneur Show.
I'm so excited you had me back, Shay. It's so good to see you again.
You as well. And thank you, the viewers. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. We don't take it for granted. We appreciate every person that subscribes, every person that pays this message forward, and just you showing up, because without you, there is no show. So with that being said, every night I love to share this. I don't get tired of doing this, by the way. I show up for just this one moment to remind you that you are amazing. You're awesome. You're incredible. You've got greatness inside you. And today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is still yet to come. With that being said, my name It's Shay Brown, in case you forgot, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. We'll make some good things happen. We connect again next time. Remember, time is long. Life is short. You got to live in that moment, and you got to make it count. God bless me. Wish you success. Thanks a lot, Angel. I appreciate you. Appreciate y'all. We out of here. Peace, everybody.